Started. Thank you, Shauna. And so just really quickly want to name our norms for today. We're asking that everyone stay engaged, and we truly appreciate it because we know it's been a long day, it's been a long year. And so we are just thankful that you're able to join us. We're going to make sure that our time is spent as productively as possible, right? We're hoping that you get some materials today, some resources that you're able to take with you into the school year. We ask that you seek understanding. If we name some things you don't quite understand, please know this is a space where you can share your questions. You can obtain clarity, right? You want to let us know what it is that you need. This is also an opportunity for us to learn more about what your needs are so we can be responsive throughout the rest of the sessions for the summer. We ask that you keep students at the center. So as we're sharing information with you, we're sharing research with you. We want you to know that this research is really focused on the needs of students. The students' needs and best practices have been centered. And so we're going to ask that each of us do that as well as we're continuing to learn today. And the last thing is just around extending grace. Again, we know this has been a challenging year. We don't know what each of you are leaving as you join us. And so we understand there may have been some challenges getting here. Again, we appreciate that you were able to make it. But if you need to step away for a moment to take care of yourself, take care of kids, whatever your needs might be, we do want to extend grace that you're able to do that and you feel comfortable with doing that. All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into some quick introductions. I want to ask and invite each one of you to please introduce yourselves in the chat. I'm going to ask that you share your name, share your grade level and your district, and then also, what's the takeaway? You showed up here today, you're making time this evening. What's something you want to leave with? Again, name, grade level and district, and then what's the takeaway? What do you expect to take away today? All right, got a lot of folks in the house today. Welcome, welcome. See, Colleen is with Troy, and she is hoping for resources for her younger students to grow their math skills. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Colleen. Got Rachel, she's K4, and she's in the resource room. She's looking for some new strategies for working with students. Wonderful. All right, love it. Shauna's OS consultant, looking to connect with local teachers. Beautiful. Yep, me too. We got Stephanie Kawala, I believe, maybe saying it wrong, so please forgive me, K5 with Oak Park. And she's also looking for some new strategies to keep students engaged. Absolutely. That definitely is our focus today. Got Amy. She's supporting K through 15, looks like. So she's perhaps beyond high school. And she's with Berkeley, and she's looking for materials and resources to support students struggling with math word problems. Definitely the right place. We might not get to those specific strategies today, but that will be a part of our work. Angela, third grade, right? And she's looking for some new math instructions tools to tools and comfort with the summer school instruction. Absolutely. So many of you, and we truly appreciate each and every one of you taking out the time to pop your name, your district, and your expectations into the chat. I want to encourage you, if you haven't done so, to please continue to do that because we are recording today's session. We get to go back, make sure that as we're planning forward, we're attending to your needs. So thank you so much for popping those in there. Going to continue on, and we are going to begin this session and each session with a warm opener. And warm openers really just provide an opportunity to invite all voices into the space. It provides an opportunity for you to connect with your students, to set the tone for the learning for the day, and also create a space where kids feel like they belong. And so we're going to begin with our warm opener. It's really simple. The first question just asks us to think about numbers, right? And we know that numbers are all around us. We see them everywhere, and we can use them to describe a multitude of things. And so we want you to use numbers to describe something wonderful about you, something wonderful about you. So an example might be is that I have 4 children, right? An example for me, I have 4 children. Something else I might say is that I am one of 7 children on my father's side, right? And I know we all have numbers that we can use to represent ourselves. Right now, pop something in the chat. How about you describe yourself or represent yourself with numbers? Pop that in the chat for us. All right, Angela, mom of 3. Married 5 years, beautiful. Wow, Sarah has visited 12 national parks. That's awesome in the US. That's great. All right. Boda's mom of 2, mom of 1, Elizabeth. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. Cindy has been teaching 32 years in Oak Park. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy, for your service. We appreciate you. All right. Let's see. Teresa, mom of 3, dog mom of 1, turtle mom of 1. Love it. Love it. Right. We could go on and on. So I want to thank you. If you haven't popped that in, get that in there. I now want us to take a look at the second question. And using the number line below, I want you to choose a number to describe how you feel about using numbers to help you solve problems. Using the number line, what number would be reflective or what might describe how you feel about using numbers to solve problems? Another question you might ask instead is, how do you feel about engaging in mathematics, right? Which one of these numbers would represent that for you and why? Now we could ask this, of course, of our kids, and maybe our kindergartners wouldn't, maybe they're not quite so sure, or maybe they would have something great to share with you. But we know we all might be able to describe how we feel about engaging with numbers. And we want you to be as honest as possible. We know that we have elementary school teachers as well as middle school. And some of us are teaching mathematics because it's our joy, it's our passion, right? This is what we chose to do. But others of us are teaching mathematics because, well, we have to, right? As an elementary school teacher. So however you feel about it, it's okay to share. But we want you to go ahead and get ready. We are going to give you a moment to share that with a partner, right? So what number describes how you feel about using mathematics to solve problems or engaging in mathematics and your why? We're going to put you in breakouts for just about 2 minutes with one other partner to just share. What questions do you have before we make that transition? Ken, what number would you use to describe how you feel about engaging in mathematics and why? Shauna, you let me know when we're ready for our breakouts.
We're good to go for 3 minutes. We ended up with some groups of 3.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Any questions before we transition to breakouts? All right, let's go. Thank you, Shauna. Stephanie, Leah, Lindsay, does anyone need any help? Just let's Hi, Christy. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thanks. So sorry that I'm late.
No
I
worries.
don't know where I had the link. I apologize. Thank you, Shauna, for the save.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm going to go ahead and put you in a breakout room. You are getting to know the other folks in your room.
All right. Thank you. Come back. All right, welcome back. And I need to just change my little screen so I can see everybody. All right, welcome back. You had an opportunity just to share a little bit with someone else around how you would describe your feelings about engaging in mathematics. Again, we know that as math educators, we may have a joy, a love for it, but we know that others may not. And so we want to create space for however our students are feeling about engaging in mathematics. We want to still invite them into the learning for the day, and warm openers provide an opportunity to do that. Um, Really quickly, give a chance for someone who had a chance to talk to someone new to just share out what's something you may have learned about the person that you met with in your breakout room. And I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. All right. So we got a chance. It was just 3 minutes, but you got a chance possibly to meet someone new, to hear them share about their experience engaging in mathematics and how they feel about it. Would someone please unmute and share what you learned about someone else and perhaps what their why was?
I'll share.
Thank you, Benjamin.
I learned about Elizabeth Barr. We talked about our math experience. We actually worked together,
Great.
but we didn't get a chance to connect on a personal level. And she had a
Nice.
connection with meeting someone through math. Yeah, and so that's what we talked about there.
Love it.
I had a previous difficult time with math in high school, and the
Mm.
person that I met is my husband. He was my math geometry tutor.
Love it.
So I should love
Beautiful.
math way more than I do. But
That's
I love
all right.
him.
Good. That's right. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that, Benjamin and Elizabeth. We appreciate you both. All right. So we do want to make time for our learning for today, but I do thank you for sharing. I thank each of you for engaging in that warm opener. Again, each time we begin to engage with our students, we like to begin with a warm opener because again, it provides an opportunity to invite all of our students' voices in the space. We can set the tone for the learning that day. So our question could have been different, right? We can have an instructional routine that we might be using to invite all of our students in, allow them to contribute, and it really just creates a space of belonging. All right. So we're going to continue on. And again, I thank you for engaging. Let's see here. All right. So for today, I want to quickly just review our agenda. We're going to talk about our goals. We're going to have the opportunity to take a look at the research which supports the interventions that we'll be sharing with you, as well as the research that supports those essential components that we've integrated within our interventions, which include social emotional learning, as well as some culturally responsive practices. We're going to talk about what those things are, right? What is SEL? What is CRT? What is it? Why is it important for our work? We're also going to look at how we plan to engage in those spaces within the lessons that you'll be working with today. Okay. And then we're also going to spend some time allowing you to take a look at some of our warm openers and hopeful endings, as well as which provides space for you to invite all of your kids in, as well as thinking about the logistics. So what are the expectations for how we'll be engaging? What is any paperwork you might need to fill out in terms of your stipends? What are some additional resources that you'll be able to use? And what are the rest of our dates? All right, so our goals for today, again, we're going to begin with introducing that research as well as some supporting resources. We want to be able to deepen our understanding of SEL and CRT, again, culturally responsive practices. We are going to have an opportunity to practice some of the routines that we're going to learn about. And then we plan to, again, review those logistics. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Shauna, who is going to share with us around our research and resources. Shauna, you want me to continue to share?
Nope, just 1 second. Sorry about that.
Okay, yep, no worries.
Too many things going on at once. All right. We wanted to let you know that we specifically chose programs that were either recommended or endorsed by MDE. So Pirate Math Equation Quest has been research validated and proven a couple different times, and Fraction Face Off has continued to get good results. And we're going to show you a couple places that you can find those references. On the MDE website, they offered some information, especially during COVID, about how to get started with students in reading and tutoring. And these were two of the programs that were recommended by MDE. You can also find both programs on the evidence-based math programs. So we really chose things that had a strong evidence base, and you can see off to the right there, the research results. And we're going to be making connections to something fairly new. Hopefully some of you have already heard of the essential instructional practices in early literacy. The math companion document is going to be coming out, and we are working on the professional learning that will go with that information. And rather than trying to make it one more thing, we're trying to see how it fits into your existing system and your existing classroom practices. So you will be able to access the Math Essential website, as well as to see the document that was created. And so that will be part of our activities together, so that we're not only looking at summer interventions, but also looking at best practice throughout the school year. Our process was also informed by the IES, the Educational Research Group, as well as What Works Clearinghouse. And these all align with the 6 important practices for students in elementary intervention for mathematics. So we are only giving you the best of the best here, and then including those SEL practices and the culturally responsive teaching ideas that really help students be ready to learn and to be able to get the most from your fabulous instruction. So we're really excited to bring all of these pieces together in a way that lets you not spend so much time Googling or on TPT looking for something good to share, but giving those resources so you can put your time and energy into the students. So hopefully this is not only good for a school year, but also when you come back in the fall, that you feel like you have some new things in your toolbox.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Shauna. All right, so we're gonna continue to jump right on in. And you know what, before I jump in, I wanna just ask, were there any questions about the IES guides or any other resources Shauna named? We are gonna provide access to those at the end of our session today. But were there any questions we wanted to lift before we continue on? Change it so I can see everyone.
Actually, I have a question.
Sure.
So I know that we signed up for one specific thing, but are we going to get the resources for everything or just what we signed up for?
You'll have access to all 3 slide decks, and you will have access to all of the videos and all of the information that we're sharing. The fraction face-off, there was a particular license that was purchased, but everything else would be available. We also won't be sending out manipulatives for all 3 interventions unless you signed up for all 3. But you'll have access to all of the information.
You could have signed up for all 3?
I will let you know after today how many spaces were not claimed. And game on. You could get up to
yeah, I thought they were all
hours.
like the same. I thought they were all the same time, just different things. So I didn't know you could sign up for all.
We'll explain that in logistics later, but you could earn up to 27 hours of $25 an hour stipends.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie, for asking that. We appreciate that. Any other questions before we go ahead and get with it? I know if you have questions about logistics or stipends or any of that, we will share that at the end of today's session, towards the end. All righty. So I'm gonna just go past here. I apologize. Shauna just lifted these ideas for us. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about our why, around why are we focused on social emotional learning and culturally responsive teaching practices. We thought it was important to just spend a little space here because for some of you, it may feel like an elephant in the room. If you have been paying attention to the news, if you've been connected to what's happening just within our national politics, we know that there has been some opposition to what has been coined CRT, and that's critical race theory, which is different from what we're focused on. But also the understanding that SEL, social emotional learning, and culturally responsive teaching are sometimes included, embedded within legislation that may be in opposition to CRT. And so we want to lift to you, we want to name for you is that we're focused on the research around best practices for student learning. And that is what has driven us to have a focus on social emotional learning. We know that all of this is going on around us, but we want to provide you with some clear data and research that supports our focus in this space. We are truly interested in ensuring that each and every student has access to the highest quality instruction and the best opportunity to experience success in mathematics and in their schooling experience, period. And so we know based on the research that SEL and culturally responsive teaching practices provide that. And so that's why we are working in this space. If you have additional questions as we go through the process, we definitely want to support you. But we wanted to just spend a little time in naming this because this may be on some of your minds. So we're going to explain what they are and then give you an opportunity to ask questions in that space. But we hope that you feel comfortable in understanding how SEL and CRT can support all students. And so before we share with you some of the research around SEL, want to give you opportunity to just think for a moment, what are the skills and habits, the characteristics you believe all kids need in order to be successful in school, right? Because that's why we have focused in this space today. That's why we have these interventions for you. That's why we've integrated these SEL practices, because we're really focused on ensuring that kids have the skills and habits they need to be successful. So I want you to think for a moment, what are those skills, those habits, those characteristics that all kids need to experience success? And just pop some of those ideas in the chat for us. Love it. Perseverance, grit, communication, calm, yes. Attending, yes. Feeling safe, flexible, self-confidence. Come on, yes. A mindset, yep, a certain type of mindset. Confidence, grit, fun, flexibility, yes. Belief in oneself, absolutely. To feel accepted, yes. So I appreciate each and every one of you who shared. Please keep them coming. We thank you so much for naming those things. And what we want to name is what you're naming, and what the research says is that the academic content is not the only thing our students need to be successful, right? Developing social and emotional learning competencies is key in developing a learning mindset and strategies critical to lifelong learning skills needed for success in school and beyond. So we know that there are some things that no matter how much work you're doing with respect to mathematical content, right? You can do everything, but there are some things that kids will need in order to be successful that might not be in that textbook, that might not be available in a specific instructional practice related to content, that there are some other skills that kids need. And in our work, we know that in order for them to be successful in our classroom, we have to create an environment that will support the development of those skills. And so I want to give you an opportunity to take a quick look at some information shared around a study for SEL in mathematics. I want to give you opportunity to read that one. And this comes from the work of Jones in 2009 and Delay in 2016. And everyone can read. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to ask you to, well, I won't read it. I'll let you read it, but I want you to read it and then think about what are some key phrases or ideas that Jones and Delay are lifting in this particular passage. Some key phrases, ideas, an important statement that you think really reflects why it's important for us to engage in SEL in mathematics. Thank you, Teresa. I don't think we shared the slide deck just yet, but we'll get that out there for you, okay? All right, so I want to give you a moment. You may pop it in the chat, and I want to invite someone who would like to unmute. Is there a particular phrase? Is there a particular statement, a word that jumps out to you under the why is SEL important in mathematics, under this um, statement that you think is really important and supports why we should consider SEL in the mathematics space? Yes, improve self-efficacy, right? How I see myself and whether or not I believe I can be successful. Absolutely. Time for reflection. Yes. So often we're just on the procedures, we're just on the doing. We don't make time for the reflection. But we know, as John Dewey said, that that's where the learning really takes place. Absolutely. Right? Having diverse groups, right? Diverse thinkers, diverse approaches. This gives our kids the opportunity to learn about various strategies. If we have a monolithic group of learners, perhaps they're only approaching it in one way. And so we want diverse learners. Absolutely. Thank you so much for everyone who shared. We appreciate you. Want you to take a look. I'm going to go back. This second statement or third statement down at the bottom, this comes from our National Council for Teachers of Mathematics. And so I will read this one just so we can get through a little quickly. Students' positive mathematical identities increases with relevant and personally meaningful content. All right. So the essential first step to promoting positive mathematical identity, how I see myself, whether or not I believe I can be successful in mathematics, is to know the learners. By understanding our students' cultures, languages, interests, and traditions, teachers create the meaningful classroom learning experiences students need to connect with content and build understanding in mathematics. Again, I want to ask you, is there a key phrase, idea, statement that you want to draw out that you think is really important around why NCTM is recommending, is naming that it is imperative that we're including CRT in our instructional experiences? Give you a moment, you can pop that in the chat. Yes, connect with content. Absolutely. Anything else? Yes, knowing the learners. Yes. So often we're in such a rush. It's difficult for us to make time to do that, but it's essential if we want to create the most supportive environment conducive for student learning. Positive math identities. Yes, that's our work. And I know we didn't think about that before. I know my math teachers weren't thinking about it, most of them, but now that's a part of our work, right? We want to make sure we're creating spaces where students feel supported and they can develop positive math identities, right? They see themselves as competent. All right. Personally meaningful content. Yes, right? It's relevant to our kids. It's relevant to their lives. Absolutely. Because we know that increases participation and engagement. Thank you. Beautiful. I appreciate each and every one of you for sharing. All right. So something else we want to lift really quickly, and that is around issues of math anxiety, which you may have experienced it, right? I don't want us to pretend because we teach math that we haven't had math anxiety. Also, our beliefs and our practices. Now, this is just some data, and I'm not going to live here, but I do want to lift up one of the pieces that they name here, and that is that 93% of adult Americans indicate they have experienced some level of math anxiety. 93%, right? That's the majority of the adult population believe that they have some level of math anxiety, right? So how well can we engage in mathematics? How well will we be able to support our kids in the space of mathematics if we're having these levels of anxiety? It also makes me think about what was our experiences in that traditional mathematics setting. The main thing I want you to take from this, and there's a lot of data and you can lean into it, you'll have access to the slides and some links as well that are in the facilitator's notes. But the main thing we want to take away is that the higher one's math anxiety is, the lower one's math learning, mastery, and motivation will be. So if you have kids in your classroom who are feeling anxiety, who are fearful, who don't think that if they share that it will be seen as valuable, that they don't think their teacher thinks that they're capable of contributing anything meaningful. When you have kids who sit in that space, then they are less likely to participate and they are less likely to learn and therefore master those skills. Last thing we want to lift just around our why, and that is connected to our beliefs. We know that we live in a society where only certain people can do math, right? There is this fixed mindset in the United States about who can perform well in mathematics and who cannot. And there's a lot of status associated with that, right? You say you teach mathematics, people are pretty impressed because the belief is that not everybody can do it. It's not like reading, literacy. The expectation is that every single person should be able to read. But we don't share that same expectation about engaging in numeracy. We believe that only certain people have a brain and have a disposition where they can engage in mathematics successfully. And so we want to disrupt that. We want to disrupt that belief that only certain people have the ability to be successful in mathematics, because we know that given um, the proper environment and supports, all people, all of our students can experience success in mathematics. And so we're here to support one another in creating that space. So I'm not gonna live here, but I would encourage us all to take a look at Rosenthal's work. If we got a little bit of time, so I will just share. Rosenthal's work is around the observer expectancy effect. And this is really just connected to what we were lifting before about what we believe about ourselves. And that's why there's this big push in math education now around mathematical identity. The kids feel some sense of confidence and positivity as they engage in the work, right? Because if I believe that I can do it, the belief is that I'll experience some success and I'll have better outcomes. And I want us all to be clear that it's not like this hokey thing, right? It's not just I believe and it happens. That's not what we're saying. Rosenthal's work, and Jacobson was a part of this in 1968, found that when we believe, teachers believing in students or students believing in themselves, that there are specific actions that we take. So as a teacher, if I believe my kids have the ability to be successful, right? To be productive, then there are certain things that I'm going to do for them. And what Rosenthal and Jacobson found, this is in 68, was that when teachers believe that kids can be successful, they believe in their ability to be productive, then they're going to provide them with greater wait time when they ask them questions, that they're going to give them gestures which are affirming and supportive, right? I'm making eye contact with you. I'm giving you smiles to say, yep, you can do it. They're asking those students more questions, right? Because they got something to say. So they're positioned as competent. And they found that when teachers do that, students do have better outcomes. Again, this is the work of Rosenthal and Jacobson from 68. So that our beliefs impact our practices, which then impact our outcomes. So I want to give you a moment. I know that was a huge lecture burst, but I'll give you some time to kind of think about it and talk through some of this with folks in your breakout room. I want you to reflect on the needs of your students who might be participating in your summer school program, or if you're going to have intervention programs in the fall. And I know you haven't met these kids yet, maybe you do know them. I'm not sure how your school is going to structure it, right? But I want you to think about those kids, right? What are some concerns you might have for them? And then what are some possible considerations that you might have for those kids? And then with that, we also want you to think about your why for engaging in the learning, not just today, but for this summer experience. I want you to have an opportunity to just connect with someone else. I know there was a lot of things that were shared around our why for engaging in SEL, our why for thinking about CRT. But we want you to think about your kids right now. And what are those things that you think they're going to need? You made a long list of those things outside of content that kids need to have to be successful. So I want to give you some time to think about the kids who are going to be coming to you. What are some of the things that they're going to need, right? And then you can also have some conversation about how that might be connected to your why for to engaging in our learning for the summer interventions program. What questions do you have before we go to a breakout for just about 3 minutes to engage in some conversation with a colleague? Okay, I'm gonna open up the rooms. Make sure the timing is right. Yep. All right. See you back in 3 minutes. They make it 5. Let's see here. All right. Anyone need help? Sarah or Stephanie, you need any help with getting, do you have a room or? I don't know. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you have on 5. All
Yep, I
right.
put people in there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shauna.
Yep.
And let's see, Sarah, how you doing, Sarah? Oh, yeah, she has 5. Okay, nobody's in there right now. Oh, okay, beautiful. Okay. We are going to continue on. We are going to provide more time later on for you to connect with one another. And so we do want to begin to talk about what SEL is, and many of you may already be very familiar with it. So we lean into your expertise. We want to encourage you to share your understanding as well. What it is, and then how we might think about using it within our mathematics space. And so to help us begin, we wanted to share with you a statement from NCTM, and it's named, and it says, the Common Core State Standards for Mathematical Practice specify that students solve real world and mathematical problems by working effectively with peers, formulating, communicating, and critiquing arguments, and persevering through difficulty. And so just as you named earlier, we know that this requires more than what will be included in our textbooks, right? That it's going to require students to be able to engage in interpersonal and intrapersonal skills. And that's what social and emotional learning is, right? That's what the competencies are focused on. And so really quickly, just a quick little definition, social and emotional learning refers to the process of developing the skills and attitudes that individuals need for success in school, in work, and in life. And one of MDE's primary goals, is outlined in the state strategic education plan, is to support the healthy and safety and wellness of all students. And they believe that this can be done by attending to our social emotional learning competencies. And so really quickly, want to share with you a video that gives us a little bit more information on what SEL is and how it might be centered within our classrooms. Okay. Stephanie, do you have a question? I'm sorry. Let me stop for a moment.
No, I'm sorry. I was just holding my hand awkwardly.
Oh, okay. No worries. All right. If there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and jump into the video.
Social emotional learning is essential.
It's the tools that kids need to be resilient, to be problem solvers, to be good people.
SEL is really about the holistic development of young people.
SEL is trying to bring a balance to the individual and what are the personal competencies you need to develop to be successful. How do you pull them all together so that kids can relate and navigate the world more effectively?
The myth was that knowledge was information that could be bolted onto a brain like any other kind of mechanical part. The truth is, knowledge is constructive. The truth is, all learning is relational. The truth is that emotion drives attention, and attention drives learning.
Social and emotional learning is about how you do school. It's about what the student experiences, what the student learns, how teachers teach.
We can think about schools and classrooms, out of school time spaces, families, etc., as places where there's an exchange of knowledge about the world, knowledge about yourself, and knowledge about the other persons that you're interacting with. All of those kinds of experiences, I think, help form and expose and shape the ways in which young people understand themselves and other people.
And we start talking about the whole child. Does your child understand self-awareness? Do they understand social awareness? Do they make good decisions? Are they responsible? And then we start talking about what that applies to academics and looking at all the essential skills we need them to be successful in life.
Children learn when their heart is open, engaged, connected, and filled with purpose.
Learning is magical, and through SEL, we can create conditions that allow all kids to access that magic.
Okay, I'm gonna try to come back here. Let's see. Oh no. Okay. So I want to thank you for just taking a moment to take a look at that video. Before we continue on, in the chat really quickly, how many of us have already been exposed to SEL and are familiar with the 5 competencies? Just, just put a hand up. Let's see here. Okay, got it. It's a couple of us. Okay. All right. Okay, so thank you. So what we want to do today is just take a look at the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning. We're going to be finding ways that want to integrate those within our lessons. We want to just take some time to take a look at each of them. We also want to name that as we go through these are not just for our students. As we name them, want to also lift that these 5 core competencies are also structured to support each and every one of us as adults, as teachers, as learners, as we navigate not just our professional worlds, but also our lives in general. So I just want to name that as we go through each one, as you're thinking about each one, you should also think about how it might support you as well as how you might use it to support your students. All right, and so the first competency is just about self-awareness. And this is really just connected to the ability to accurately recognize my own emotions, my thoughts, right? And how they are influencing my behavior. By being able to be self-aware, I'm able to identify my strengths. I'm able to really lean into what my limitations might be. It can also support us in building our confidence because we're aware of what we're capable of. Okay, that's our self-awareness. The next one is self-management, and this is the ability to regulate the emotions. So now that I'm aware of what my emotions are, what my feelings are, how do I manage that? So this is connected to our behaviors, being able to manage stress, controlling our impulses. It can also support how we motivate ourselves, right? And it can also support us as we are setting goals and managing time and so forth. Social awareness is connected to the ability to take the perspective um, of someone else and be able to empathize with others. So it allows us to connect with others, to learn about social norms, right? The norms within our home or within our church might be different than in our classroom. So being aware of what the social norms and expectations are can be extremely helpful for students. The next one is connected to relationship skills. This is ability just to be able to establish and maintain healthy, productive relationships. And this is really connected to like how we communicate. Are we able to listen? cooperate with others, um, being able to connect with others, support others who might need our assistance, being able to know when to offer that assistance. And then the last one is around responsible decision making. And so we know that we want our students to be critical thinkers. We want them to be able to apply the strategies and information that they are learning in appropriate ways and perhaps unfamiliar ways. And so responsible decision making is connected in this space. And this is really just the ability to make constructive and thoughtful, respectful choices, not just about um, content, but also connected to our personal behavior, our social interactions, right? Being aware of what an ethical standard might be, being aware of safety concerns, and so forth. So these are the 5 core competencies. And again, they are named not just to support our students, but adults as well. And there's a lot of research that suggests that as we are developing these skills, um, we are able to be more productive and it increases our academic proficiency. And so I want to give you a moment, just a second, to think about just today, for example, what core competency have you used to support you today? Is there a core competency you've leaned into? Just pop that in the chat. Yes, relationship skills, self-awareness, absolutely. Relationships, yes. Social awareness, absolutely. Self-awareness, yes. I want to stop for a moment and just invite someone, and we really appreciate you sharing in chat, but I want to invite your voice into the space. If there is anyone who would like to unmute and just talk about one of the core competencies that you may have used or been leaning into today, just to support you as you got through your day. We really appreciate that. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see my screen here. Let's see. Oh, maybe I can. Yeah, I'll stop sharing. Okay. Anybody like to unmute? What core competency?
I could go ahead and share something.
Thank you, Teresa.
So when I'm thinking of relationship skills, I'm thinking of there was a situation where one of my students was out for a couple days just with some outside stuff. And they came in today and I definitely had to focus on relationship skills because their brain was not ready to learn.
Yes.
And it was just that moment where I had to say, okay, that has to be the focus right now.
Yes.
And then by the end, hey, we got some academics in.
Yes. Thank you, Teresa, for lifting that. Thank you so much for giving yourself that grace and the permission to do what was necessary for that child. Because sometimes, we don't feel like we can do that. We got to get to the content. But by ignoring what we know may be an emotional need for that child, it may keep us from ever really getting to the content in a meaningful way. So thank you, Teresa, for lifting that. I'm sure that there are many of you who can relate with that. Let's get one more person. Anybody else? What's a core competency that you may have leaned into today that really helped you just get through the day?
Eurisha, I can share. I
Thank
am
you,
at a middle
Lindsay.
school level, and self-management is
Yes.
definitely something that I focus on the daily, just helping kids with impulse control, organizational skills, doing school.
Yes. Lindsay, thank you so much. And you name you're helping the kids with it. I was a middle school teacher, so I needed to focus on my own self-management and managing them and supporting them. So thank you so much for lifting that. I appreciate it. Absolutely. All right. So we are going to continue on. I'm going to share my screen just for you to get a sense of how we're going to be focused today. All right, so these are the core competencies for social emotional learning. One thing I want to lift is that sometimes we say SEL and it sounds like this big, huge thing, but when you really break it down, These are the things that teachers have been attending to since people have been teaching, right? This is just a natural habits of mind and skills that we would want to develop in young people and in ourselves, right? So nothing new here. All right. So we also want to bring your attention to culturally responsive teaching. And we won't spend as much time in this space. We really are going to center social emotional learning, but we do want to name it because we know that our national mathematics organizations name the need for it. And we also are going to provide opportunities for you to engage in this space. So just want to name that culturally responsive teaching is a research-based approach that makes meaningful connections between what students learn in school and their cultures, their languages, and life experiences. These connections help students access rigorous curriculum, develop higher level academic skills, and see the relevance between what they're learning at school and in their lives. And I also want to lift that when we say culture, it is language, it is food, it is clothes, it's music, but it's so much more than those things, right? That's the surface. It also includes our values, it includes our beliefs. And so we like to say what is most meaningful to our students, right? We're connecting that to culture. All right, so culturally responsive teaching, again, a research-based approach, initially named by Gloria Lansing Billings, and she really centered in on three aspects. And she named that teaching must yield um, academic success for all kids. She named that it should help students develop positive cultural identities, not just of their own culture, but of the cultures of others, the cultures throughout their community, the world that we live in. She also named that teaching, that students learning, should assist them in understanding the world they live in, but also addressing the critical issues that exist within the world. So how might we use mathematics to understand challenges, but then also use the mathematics to address those challenges? This is what she named as criticality. And so what we know is some really clear aspects and what the research bears out about culturally responsive teaching is that it's asset-based. It asks us to intentionally look at what do kids come with that is valuable, that can be used to support them in their learning, that we can publicly name so that students will feel like they are important, that their lives and communities have value and meaning, and connect that to their learning with the assets they come with, the things that their strengths and things that they're able to do. We know that kids are not empty vessels when they come to us. They come to us with experiences. So how do we leverage those? Also naming that it's brain-based, which is connected to the idea of leveraging previous experiences to connect to new experiences. We know that based on neuroscience that that's how kids, how all people learn best. It's relationship centered, right? Really encouraging us to know our students. Who are they? What's important to them? And how do I integrate that into the learning? And then the last thing, which is so important to me, is that critical reflection piece they name. And this is really centered on us as teachers, educators, adults, knowing ourselves. Why am I teaching what I'm teaching? Do I believe that this is how kids learn best? Is it just about how much time I have left? Why is this important to me? Why is this valuable to me? Why am I creating these particular experiences for my students? Is it supporting my students? Is it helping my students? Might it be causing harm? Do I have a deficit perspective about my students? Critical reflection is asking the educator to think about their own why. Why do they engage in this work? Why do they teach the way that they teach? To help them so they'll understand their practices and what are the things that they might shift in order to improve. So that's just a little bit around culturally responsive teaching. We did want to share that with you. And the way that you're going to see it show up in our resources is in our hopeful ending and our warm openers. All right, and it's named as good teaching with intentionality, right? Because the things that I named, you might be like, that's what we're supposed to do. Okay. All right. So we do want to give you this time just to kind of reflect on the information that was shared so far. And again, I know I'm just talking at you. We would typically give you several documents for you to engage in, but we know it's the end of the day. And so we wanted to be able to kind of move through this as quickly as possible and provide opportunity for you to connect around the ideas that are shared. So you will have more time to do that. So right now we are going to give you more time to connect this time, but we want you to reflect on a time when you were learning something new or attempting to meet a goal. How did attending to one of the 5 social emotional learning competencies or the key teaching practices of culturally responsive teaching support your success? Again, and I'll really quickly, we know our 5 core competencies are self-awareness, right? Who am I? Um, what are my emotions? What am I feeling? My whys, self-management, being able to control what I'm thinking, being able to control my behavior, um, social awareness, being aware of the social norms around me so I can engage in positive ways. Relationship skills, being able to empathize with others, understand and connect with others, support others, receive support from others. Responsible decision making, being able to take information and make critical decisions. And those key teaching practices were being able to leverage previous experiences, right? What were my experiences in the past that can support this new learning? Someone acknowledging my assets publicly is really important for our kids, making connections to home and community, and then also teachers' critical reflection, being able to think about what I'm doing as an educator and then thinking about how it impacts experiences that I'm creating for my kids. Okay, so I know that that's a lot, and we appreciate you for hanging in there. Do want to give you opportunity now to connect with one another. This time we're going to give you um, about 6 minutes. We're asking that you share a time learning something new or goal, and you lean into one of the 5 core competencies or key teaching practices of culturally responsive teaching. What questions do you have before we transition to the breakouts? Give you just some time to talk and process. Okay. Oh, yeah. Social emotional learning. But you've already been intentional about supporting kids and thinking about their feelings and managing those feelings, supporting them with making responsible decisions. You've already been working on making connections to students' home experiences. And so we appreciate you and want to name that that will be the focus of how we'll be able to engage students in this space throughout the interventions. Okay, so I'm going to continue on so we can give you enough time for our practice today. We want to talk to you about how we've integrated the social emotional learning aspect as well as the culturally responsive teaching within our intervention lessons. And so I want to bring to your attention, this is a quote by James Baldwin. It says, children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. And you're a teacher, so you know it. If you have kids, you know this for certain. And so what we want to do is model how students might engage in these practices. We want to model how students might be able to develop within any one of these competencies or skills. So how will that happen? The structure of all of your lessons will include warm opener. Going to share that with you today. You're going to have engaging strategies, which is really rooted in the intervention practices that are going to be shared in the remainder of our lessons together. And then you're going to have hopeful endings. So today we're going to have some time to take a look at the warm openers and the hopeful endings. We want to name that it is imperative that you take the time to facilitate a warm opener in the beginning of each lesson and a hopeful ending at the end of each lesson. You may modify the ones that we're going to share with you. You may use others that you have found to be extremely successful with your kids. We want to make sure that you make time for them, because by making time for the warm openers, you're making time for students to feel valued, to build those positive math identities, to be able to build their agency, have a strong sense of agency, which is connected to how much they are going to contribute, right? because we want to position students so that they'll feel like what they bring into the classroom matters. And we can do that by leaning into these types of activities, right? Creating these experiences. And so we want to start with the warm openers. And I shared one with you at the very beginning today. And so I would just want to remind you, a warm opener is something that you may already be doing. You may call it a launch. You may call it a do now. Remember, we had do nows. You may have a connector. Hey, it's however you are going to start the lesson for that day. We're really leaning into Castle's work around their 5 SEL core practices, and they've named these as 3 signature practices, and that's the warm openers, those engaging strategies, and the hopeful endings. And so they're naming the warm opener again as an opportunity to bring every voice into the classroom. It allows you to set the tone for the day. It allows you to create a space where everyone can contribute, where everyone can be centered as competent, right? What they're saying is important, is valuable, it matters. It can set the tone for fun. Sometimes we go into our math class, we're like, oh no, but you can bring that passion, that joy, and love that you have, perhaps for the content, and definitely for the kids that you serve, into the space at the very beginning of the lesson. So we get to set the tone for the day. Um, it can also help to ensure that you're providing that opportunity so every single kid feels included and again is positioned as competent. Hey, you can do this. So what we're sharing with you are several different warm openers that you can consider using with your students. Today we looked at numbers about me, and you want to modify it for your kids. So if you have really, younger children, perhaps you're just saying, what's a number that might describe how you feel about numbers? Or you may say, what's a number that might describe something that you really like or you really care about? And then if you have older kids, you might talk about how they feel about engaging in mathematics. Perhaps your kindergarten kids may not have a clear understanding of how they feel about that just yet. Okay, but there are several here that you can consider using. Again, these are just a way to, again, invite all of your students into the space. We're going to add some additional math instructional routines as well, because we know that we can always include those instructional routines as well, those mathematic routines, again, as another way to set the tone for the learning of the day, to invite all voices in, but also as a way to launch them into the particular mathematics content as well. So you're welcome to use those also. So what we're going to do right now is provide some opportunity for you to practice. But before we do, I do want to share with you the hopeful endings. And I'm going to go to this one here. Okay, so we're beginning with a warm opener. We're setting the tone for the day. We're inviting our students in. We're positioning them as competent. We are connecting them to the mathematics learning beginning of the day. Okay, that's the warm opener. The hopeful ending is about how do we close out this day? How do we close out this day that even if I had a hard day, even if today was challenging, even if, maybe they got on your nerves, they made you not feel as helpful as you want to feel. And we know sometimes our kids, can take us there. We might have those experiences, right? We're all human. But the hope is that the hopeful ending can center us at the end of the day. It provides an opportunity for us to bring attention back to what was most important about the learning. So you get to center that. It brings us time again to invite voices into the space. Perhaps maybe it's not all of the voices this time, but maybe those kids who didn't get an opportunity to share during the engaging lesson, bringing those voices into the space. It's not necessarily a cheery ending, right? Because sometimes we call it an optimistic closure. So it doesn't have to be happy and, you know, um, fake, right? You don't have to try to create something that isn't real, but it does provide a space where you can be reflective about the learning and you can just stop everything, whatever is going on, whatever engaging activity you were in, whatever manipulatives we may have been using, whatever, we stop all of that and take this moment in time to reflect on what the goals were for the learning. And we get an opportunity to share about that. So what I want to do right now is just share with you one of the optimistic closure, just so you can get a sense for what that might look like. Okay, and I'm going to bring your attention to this one here. This is 1 minute accolades. This is something great about me. And you'll see we have something great about a peer, something great about today. It just gives kids an opportunity to reflect on the day and to affirm the learning for the day. And they can focus on learning, they can focus on what they specifically learn. Okay, so the goals for the 1 minute accolades is reflect on tasks and highlight individual and group academic and social strengths. It focuses on self-awareness, management, responsible decision making, as well as social awareness and appreciation of others. The way this particular um, hopeful ending works is that at the end of the lesson, and it's easier, of course, if you're in person, just name that today we're going to share something great about ourselves, right? How often do we give kids an opportunity to do that, particularly connect to our mathematics content, okay? Particularly connected to their mathematics experience. All right. So again, today we're going to just share something great about ourselves, right? And so you can remind students of the day's activities. Today, perhaps we learned about counting forward or counting backwards. Perhaps today we learned about being able to decompose numbers, whatever it may be, right? And we're going to let them use the language that they use. But remind students of the day's activities and then ask students, what are some things we did to be successful? You can give them opportunities to share, and then you can share some things, right? Share some examples, then allow your students to share. And then ask students to now think quietly about the following question. What is something you did well today? So you give them that think time, and then you're going to allow students to share out, right? Set the clock. We name for 1 minute, but if you have a really large group, you may have more, you may have less, right? And as you do this, the faster your kids will become with this. But to set that clock or a timer and inform students that we're going to see how many voices we can share, right? And again, you might want to start with, you might want to center the kids who haven't shared as much. And then so you're going to go around and ask each student to share something that I did well today. It might be I helped someone else. It might be I counted forward. It might be I used the number line. Whatever it is, allow them all to share out. If you're able and you have more time, you can have students go and share around again. Again, as you start this, as you begin, it will be slow going. Kids might need a little help thinking about it. But as you practice it, kids will become better with it, and they will begin to be reminded of what they do well, what they're capable of. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. And what I want to do right now is give you some time, and I know you have access to the hopeful endings and the warm openers. Again, this comes from Castle's SEL best practices, and we are going to add some more and include them in your slides. But what we want to do right now is just give you some time to kind of practice. Find a warm opener and a hopeful ending. And with the people in your breakout room, you're just going to practice. How might you share this with your students? How might you facilitate this with your kids? How might you modify it if your kids are older or if your kids are younger? I want to give you just some time to play with it, and then we can respond to any questions you have about the warm openers and the hopeful endings. What questions do you have about the warm openers or hopeful endings before you get a chance to go to your breakout room? Just practice. Just take a look at what's there and then share some ideas with a colleague. Feeling okay about it? All right, let's give it a shot. Thank you,
Hello.
Shauna. Full conversation. So I hope that everybody enjoyed the opportunity to practice, right? Sometimes things are shared, but we don't get that time to just engage in it and see what it feels like for ourselves. And so do want to take this time to open up the floor and invite in any wonderings or any observations. And I want to invite in Regina, specifically Melissa, I heard name this as well. But can you talk about one of the challenges and some possible solutions that you all talked about the warm openers and hopeful endings?
Well, yes, we were discussing a way to do this with our like K2, like ASD, CI type students, that something that they could actually visualize and understand and do. And so we came to a conclusion that perhaps like the feeling faces or an emoji or something like that would work with them, so we can try to get a little gentle warm opener and a gentle closing. Shauna also suggested Sarah Wolf, who's a member of our special ed team weekly. She has some good ideas about this, but Melissa, did you have some of the same questions?
Yeah, I was kind of reflecting on how it obviously can be difficult for kids that are using AAC devices or don't have all the tools to communicate, or even if like different manipulatives are hard to use, because we know those sometimes don't go as planned. So we thought of maybe, like you said, creating like a little choice board to self-reflect on it. I also talked about how this kind of reminded me of like number talks and how working on a number of the day can be very visual. So anything that we can make visual, I think that's a way that we can modify any of the warm-ups or openers.
Yes.
Yeah, we've used the Jamboard where they can write on the Post-it note and drag it in, but I don't think that would work with this level of student that we were just talking about necessarily. But
Thank you. I appreciate both of you lifting that, because we want to make sure all kids are able to just share how they're feeling. And so we know that if we don't provide them with access, they can't do that. So I'll be thinking about that for next year's session, and maybe I'll be able to get some things together before the summer ends, so that we can support those students in being able to share their feelings as well. There any other noticing, wonderings about the warm openers or hopeful endings that anybody wanted to lift?
I'll say something. I
Thank you,
mean,
Stephanie.
never before this have I really thought about having like an opening with like a number, you know? I mean, I need to get better at like having openings forever, but because I'm a resource room teacher and I have K5, I'm literally running from one room to another, and then I have a walkie that there's an emergency, you know. So like being able to have that, but you know, the ending might be the hardest part, just because sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm 15 minutes past, I gotta go get my other kids.
Yeah.
But like doing, you know, having something that can be like leveled, like one question, but it can fit for
Yes.
all levels, and just write it on the board and the kids know
Yes.
that they come in and we talk about it.
Yes.
But I've taken the number talk stuff, but I've never just thought about like, okay, like what's your favorite number and why, or how many, you know, brothers and sisters you have. You know, the one thing I can see is that you gotta have a cutoff though with
Oh,
some
yeah.
things. You know, you're gonna get some kids that will be like, well, my dad has 7 boys, and then my cousin has 4, and then
Yes.
my mom doesn't live with us anymore. And
Yes.
so, you know, and then you're just like, what, how did we get to the zoo?
Yes.
Like, you know, and then you don't want to cut the kid off, but
Yeah.
like
Yes.
you have to have some type
Agreed.
of way to reel them in. You
Yes.
know, that's why, like, I
One
think sharing
statement.
is good, but,
Yes.
you know, maybe even having them write it down, and then
Okay.
like I share, you know, what they
Okay.
said.
Well,
But
maybe we can just, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
yeah, go
Stephanie.
ahead. No,
No,
go
I
ahead.
just want to name. So I want to name, we appreciate you bringing that, because we know we're all challenged with that. 2 things I want to lift: time. So at the end for closure, And then also when we're kids, we just time kids going beyond. So maybe a structure we can have for our warm openers at one statement, one thought, right? One statement, one thought, and we all are in the habit, kids too, of stopping people in a loving way, right? And then with that closure, I do want to encourage you to find time for that reflection, for that summary, because again, that's where that learning can be consolidated. If we don't, we've been doing a whole bunch of stuff and then we just go. And we never really take the time to process and make those connections. So I want to encourage you to try to find that time. And so with that, I want to go back and share my screen, and then I'm going to end here. And I want to just tell you all, you have been a joy today. I appreciate each and every one of you. But we do want to share. Am I on the right? Can you all see one small thing? Yes? Okay, good, good. And I'll hit that. Okay, so we do want you to leave this learning, this time today, to think about what's one small thing you can commit to based on these warm openers and hopeful endings. Is there a part of it, right? I heard Stephanie say she can put a question on the board and maybe we could share out. Maybe that's the way to do it. Someone else in the group name, hey, when kids are lining up and it's time to go, I can have each one name an accolade. Whatever it is, what is one small thing you can commit to? Try it this week, right? With your kids as a way to either invite all voices in, to summarize the learning for the day, just to create a space where kids feel like their contributions matter, whatever it might be. Want to give you a chance now to pop that in the chat. What is one thing you can commit to this week? One thing. All right. Thank you, Christy. Warm openers. I see. Notice a wonder. And Angela, just warm openers all together. Love it. Yes. Create visuals for nonverbal. Stacy, will you share those with us? We would truly appreciate it, and we will give you recognition for that. But we would love if you could share that.
Yeah, absolutely. Visuals are my favorite thing. So,
Hooray, yay. Thank you, Stacy.
Yep.
Stephanie, what did you say? Having to open at least one day. Okay, this week. You got, thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate it. Benjamin, warm opener, beautiful. Wrapping up next week, I think I might have kids share what they have enjoyed about our time together. Yes, yes, yes. What have they enjoyed? And maybe not next, maybe we'll share it this week. Maybe we'll share it at the end of the day, right? Whatever it is, want everybody to commit to something and see what a difference it might make, not just for your kids, but even for you, right? For how you're feeling, for your day, and for your support with connecting with your kids and connecting with your learning targets. All righty. So I want to thank you all for your time today, and we're going to transition to Shauna to think about our logistics and stipends and so forth. So I will stop sharing.
All right, just one moment here. Take a moment, grab my screen. Okay, so I have added things to our Padlet, and we also have a stipend form. So these are going to be two of your most important documents as we go through our sessions, which will end on June 21st. So you're going to want to make sure and have all of your paperwork filled out. And if you have kids at home and that's why the 21st is hard for you, you are welcome to bring your kids to that. It's going to be a pretty informal session where we're going to hand out some teacher materials, and we're going to have time to chat and talk about what things you might need to use these interventions, whether it's over the summer or with your students in the fall. So that's kind of a problem solving open house kind of session. But we have a form that you will be able to make a copy of. You should be able to fill out this form as you go. And so this is your stipend request form. Everyone is going to fill in the parts in green. So everyone is going to fill out the parts in green. If you are doing fraction face-off, you can also use the lines that are dedicated towards purple. If you are doing number blocks, you can also fill out the lines for blue. If you are doing private math equation quest, you can also fill out the lines in orange. If you are doing all three because you are living math for the next 35 days, that's fine. You can actually bill up to 27 hours if you are registered for all three. So you want to make sure that you're registered with Oakland Schools, not that you answered the form, but you actually got that event management confirmation email. And all of those times in this second column right here, so all of these times are maximum for that activity. So if you attended the Zoom today, the actual time is going to be however many minutes you were on Zoom. If you were not able to attend the Zoom today or any of the future Zooms, there will be options that you can either watch the recording and then answer some questions, or you can earn your hours using some of those other options. The Padlet I'll give you in just a moment. Ooh, why it's not working for anybody? The link is broken. Just a moment. That looks like the link.
It worked when I went through the Padlet, but it didn't work with the link you sent.
Okay, just a second.
Same here.
Thank you for letting me know. Shoot, let me try one more thing here. Okay, there's the link there, and maybe I will just give you the link to the Padlet as well if it's working off Padlet. Okay, if you're not able to open it, don't worry about it. We will send it as a hard copy PDF as well, and that sometimes works better than Google Drive. So as you fill out all of this information, you're sort of collecting your hours as you go. If you're signed up for one intervention, it's up to 10 hours for that intervention. Thanks, Christy. I appreciate you checking it for me. If you have any questions with the paperwork, we are happy to help you. It is my goal in life to make sure that these tax dollars get back into teachers' hands whenever possible. Eurisha and I are really committed to making sure that local teachers are able to benefit from these intervention dollars. So anything we can do to make sure that you get paid is our priority. We have the sessions listed with the correct dates over here. We did have a date change for number blocks. We are meeting on the 31st instead of, I think, the 26th. So we want to make sure that you have all of the correct dates there. And then let's take a minute and walk you through the Padlet. And let me put that link in chat for everybody. And this is kind of the landing page for all three courses. When you go to Padlet, please, if you don't have an account, sign in and create an account. Otherwise, when you comment on the videos and we go to check for stipend participation, we can't tell who made the comment. So like someone here watched a video and then they commented, but we can't tell who it is. So, and I think in this case, like she typed her name at the end, but please go ahead and join Padlet. That way all of your comments have your name automatically and you will get full credit. See, Stacy, bring the little one along. It works. Okay, so what we're looking at then is everything in red is all of this really important stuff that Eurisha talked to you about today. If kids are not feeling safe and ready to learn, it doesn't matter how good you are. They're not in a space to learn. So we definitely want to attend to those pieces. And she's offered us some different videos and connections so that you have resources learning more about how to do culturally responsive teaching and how to embed those social emotional learning practices into what you're doing starting tomorrow. So we know that you're already doing lots of good work. Hopefully these are just little tweaks to make what you do even better. The second column are all Oakland Schools created materials. You will find a link to the stipend form. If you have not gotten a stipend from Oakland Schools in the last 18 months, or if you've moved addresses, you want to fill out a new W-9. The government wants to make sure and tax you on this if you make more than $600 from us. So if you don't have a W-9, they won't issue a check. The next thing in this column are today's slides. So you have all of that ready to go. And then once I download the video and upload it to YouTube, you will actually have a video of today's session as well. The 3 intervention slides that we have created, you'll have number blocks, pirate math slides, and fraction face-off slides. The fraction face-off slides are protected by Vanderbilt copyright. So we're not allowed to share those outside of the people in this room because we've paid for licenses for those folks. We are also creating more videos as we go. So you will continue to see videos in this OS created column. I'm going to switch screens for one moment here. So when you are looking at the stipend, when you're looking at the stipend form, there is on your own intervention research right here in this green row. It's also green on Padlet. So no matter which intervention you're here to learn about, you are welcome to watch the math intervention videos and then comment to count that time. You can watch Dr. Robin Cotting talk about evidence-based intervention and instruction, and then comment to get your time for that credit. Or you can listen to Dr. Vanderhayden talk about matching intervention to student needs. All of these videos have been really well received. There's a little bit of a thinking question there for you, and you can earn stipend time for watching the video and responding. If you are taking fraction face-off, you're going to focus on those purple columns. We have some Oakland Schools things that will go with our live session. And then we have fractions in the real world, talking about fractions with time and money. We also have some misconceptions, and then understanding fractions, decimals, and percents. So again, you will get credit for watching those videos and then responding on Padlet. And all of those will go in your on your own options. So those are right down here, and that's where you're going to record it on your stipend form. If you are doing Pirate Math Equation Quest, you definitely want to check out their webpage. They have a bunch of pre-created videos. And as you watch those videos, there's a thinking question in there. Again, these videos are a little bit shorter than the one for fractions, so we gave you more options. Angela, are you able to visit it as an anonymous person? I thought you would be able to participate in Padlet, but not create one.
When I tried to sort of like save this one, I mean, there might be something that I can't quite figure out, but in order, it says that I'm like over my max for like the free account. So I'd have to try to figure out how to offload other things. Otherwise I have to do a paid subscription.
It was my understanding that you are able to access the Padlet, but maybe you just can't save it.
Nope, you can from the Padlet, you up at the right-hand corner, there's 3 little dots. If you click on it, you can email the link to yourself, or then you can also import it. And then you can import it if you go all the way down as a PDF, and then you can save it as the PDF, and all the links are still on there and you can access it that way.
Okay. Would she be able to participate and make comments on it if she were anonymous?
That I'm not quite sure of. I just know she'll have access to Padlet.
Angela, if you need to, go ahead and join it on an incognito browser, and then put your name at the end of every comment you make, and we'll just give you credit that way. That way, because I don't want you to have to pay for Padlet.
Thank you.
So yeah, absolutely. And then just keep accessing it through the link. And then we also have some options for you that we mentioned a little bit earlier when we were talking about the essential instructional practices in early math. You'll have time to read that document and then answer the question, as well as looking at the value statements and the Michigan Math Essentials. Yep, Sarah, can you put those directions? Oh, she can't. She's driving. Regina, I will try and put some directions together and put them in an email.
Thank you.
Because
I'm a little lost too.
Yep, okay. And then we also have some videos about early learning trajectories from Doug Clements and the progression of early numbering counting from G. Fletchy. So we will go through all of these color-coded ones. We will go through the blue ones on May 31st. We will go through all of these, I think, next week. I'll check on the date in that just a moment. And we will talk about fraction face-off on the night when we do separate sessions for each one of the interventions. Here is the grid. If you are doing number blocks, you are here today for the all call Zoom, and number block people will not be coming back until 5:31. And then we also have a Zoom where everybody comes back together on 6/7. And then we have Live at OS where you can get those prizes and come talk to us, and we'll give you lots of things for showing up. Oakland Schools is under construction this summer, so we are definitely trying to pass along a lot of good math materials. So it's going to be a great time to be there. Pirate Math folks, we are going to see you next week on the 25th. Fraction Face-Off folks, we're going to see you on the 26th. And then again, everyone back together on the 7th. Yikes, and we're over. Someone should have said something. I apologize. If you have questions, go ahead and stay on the Zoom and we will be happy to ask them. Otherwise, let us know what you need. We will send emails with all of the links so that you have all of that available.